Let's talk about it.
Welcome to Emotional and Mental Justice. I'm Yuna, and welcome to my podcast. My podcast is a place of familiarity. It is a place where we can learn to rediscover our hearts and our minds with an aim to live a life that we will love, where we can be free to be exactly who we are and with no apologies. Come and take a walk with me. Let us get that justice that we deserve.
We all have emotions and think about things. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it.
Hi, welcome to Emotional and Mental Justice. I'm Yuna and welcome to my podcast. Today I'm joined by the lovely Annie. I was about to call you by your old name because you just recently got married, didn't you? So I'm not really sure what your full name is. Would you like to introduce yourself, Annie?
Yeah, so I still go by the name Annie Mbako, but some people call me Annie Cunningham.
Okay, so Annie Mbako / Cunningham.
Yeah.
So Annie is just an amazing person. I'll put her details at the end of this video under the notes. She is a speaker, a coach, and a facilitator. Annie does a lot of good work, and I guess, get to know Annie. But today we'll be talking about endometriosis, a very important topic and very personal to you. Is that right?
Yeah, indeed. Thanks for
Okay.
the glowing intro.
What's that, sorry?
I said, thanks for the glowing intro.
You're welcome. Much deserved. So tell me about what, for those that don't know, what is endometriosis?
So, how can I describe endometriosis? Endometriosis is something that affects people who have wombs. It is known as a condition where your body kind of attacks you. So it's similar to, in terms of conditions, it's similar to allergies where your womb basically produces chemicals and then your body reacts to it. Some of these chemicals can be outside, it's usually outside of your womb that causes problems, and the chemicals can be sent anywhere in your body. And it's becoming more, there's knowledge around it, it's growing a lot more. But that's only been happening in the last, say, like 5 to 10 years. It's very common, so it is as common in women as asthma. However, a lot of people don't know that they have it, and it takes about 8 to 10 visits to a doctor before women get diagnosed. So it's very common. Lots of women have it. They don't know that they have it. It can start as early, as early puberty, right from teenagehood, right up to, when you're older, much, much older. There is no pattern to it, and there are a set of symptoms or known symptoms, but there's no textbook symptoms. So it's very, very difficult to diagnose and can be mixed up with other conditions.
Yeah. That's so interesting that you say only the last 5 to 10 years. That's very recent. But even then, I don't think it's so much, because you hear things like, even in the workplace, for example, when people say, there's menopause, we're talking about that now more and more, but that's something people have known of. With endometriosis, I think it's a word that people might hear, not really understand what it is, or one that's really been focused on when it comes to women. I just haven't really heard that being focused on per se.
No. And I think the people who are affected, at least we've noticed that the online community and on social media and even some campaigns in the news, it's become a thing in the last 2 or 3 years. But that's the maximum that most people would ever know about it, is a campaign that comes around I think it's every October in the UK.
Well, and just think, women have been having periods forever. We've always had this, we've never not, I say periods, we're obviously going to talk about the link or, whatever it is. When did you first discover, because obviously, or what's your relationship with endometriosis, should I say?
So I've always had probably irregular periods or issues with my periods right from the time when I hit puberty. So I guess I started my hormonal journey was right in primary school, the last year of primary school. So I got my period quite early. But I can remember even in the middle of high school throwing up on the way to the toilet, not quite making it, having to spend some days being sent home and away from school, and just generally feeling sick all the time. I didn't think anything of it because back in the day and even recently, people who have those kind of symptoms, you're just told it's normal. Well, we now know that it isn't normal at all.
No.
It's not good. And it's, you know, one of the beginning signs, early signs. But I had no idea what endometriosis was actually until when I went to university. I was friends with somebody who had been diagnosed with endometriosis. And she had a treatment plan, and this treatment plan was just to manage the symptoms because it's not curable. Every treatment is just to manage the symptoms so you can just cope every month.
Okay.
And from listening to what she was saying, I started thinking, you know, maybe I've got similar symptoms, maybe this could be me. But she had private medical care, so she had very strong painkillers. I remember she even had like a syringe to knock herself out if the pain was too much.
Wow.
Whereas on the NHS or, you know, every other healthcare system, you just get the standard painkillers. They might prescribe you something a little bit stronger at maximum, but even then, some of those strong painkillers don't work, and they started to not work for me. So that was like in my early 20s. I would say I had problems on and off. It wasn't to the point where it was very severe and interfering with my life until probably in my late 20s. So I was working, and that's the time when I started needing to go to the toilet a lot more often. It usually, for me, my endometriosis kicks in around the time of my period because my hormones fluctuate, and that's usually what starts it off. And yeah, I had a very, very, very understanding team and very understanding managers. I didn't know what was going on. There was no HR classification even under chronic illnesses for endometriosis at that time, so I couldn't really claim anything. Yeah, I just had a very flexible team, managed to do my work and things around them, but I spent a lot of time getting used to the toilets and knowing exactly how quickly, you know, to run back and forth from the toilets and things like that.
That's a lot though. I mean, I know we you laugh about it, but that's to start to draw conclusions at the age of 20, like in your 20s, having gone through, I know you said it wasn't so severe, but you were still going through some stuff that was just labeled as like normal. And then to have, that's why it's good to talk as well, because only through talking to this person, you realized, oh, you know, you started to draw conclusions. Whereas when it comes to things like periods, we don't always talk about these things because they're private per se. But I think nothing should be private when it comes to, you know, women issues, our bodies and stuff like that, because they're normal. We go through them, but for some reason, for many years, we've shied away from actually discussing these blood issues and intimate issues. I just think it's a lot to go through. Lucky you had a supportive team, but even then, without a diagnosis of endometriosis, it's like, okay, she's got her periods again, when actually it's actually more than just that.
Wow. I mean, I think the team they were amazing, and I managed to do my work. You know, I managed to always excel in the team. Luckily for me, that was something that I've always insisted on doing, but I know that I've done things that I didn't need to do and shouldn't have, like going to client meetings in excruciating pain, just because that's what needed to be done at that time, and the pain was coming at an inconvenient time for me. And there was, you know, maybe no one else, or maybe only one other person who was in the meeting with me, and I didn't want to leave them alone. So I have done a lot of things like that, go to meetings or events just to be at the center in excruciating pain.
Well, so would this pain have an onset only when you're on your period, or would it also show up at other times?
It's just before. It'd start just before and go into maybe 2 days, the first 2 days of my period, but it would usually last a few days. I mean, when it started initially, it would last a couple of days, and then I went through a period where it would last the good time of a week. And then for me particularly, the worst of my symptoms was nausea, which I still get on and off. And the nausea would just make me tired. be nauseous and I'd lose my appetite as well. So it actually took me a long time to recover. And now these days, yeah, it takes me at least 10 days to recover
Wow.
from it. So it's
And
really
that's a long time, you know, to go through. I mean, my periods are light to average, and if I feel any pain, it's maybe the day before it starts or on day one, and it's for a few hours, and that pain can be excruciating. But I can just imagine going through this pain for a few days, and having to go through other symptoms with it as well. So it's a lot. So what changed? You mentioned earlier that it's nothing that can be cured, but it can be treated or managed.
Yes.
What changed for you, and how was yours managed over the years?
So the first thing was the first time, eventually, when was this? It was a few years ago, so about 3-4 years ago, I did manage to get a diagnosis from a doctor, a specialist. So he agreed to do a laparoscopy, which is the standard. It's a small operation, basically. It's keyhole surgery where they put a camera through your belly button just to investigate and burn off or cut off any lesions if there are any. That's the standard treatment to diagnose and treat endometriosis at a very basic level. I actually ended up having a bigger operation than that, because by the time they went in, they just discovered that things were a lot more complicated and they couldn't do it through the keyhole, so they had to open me up and do surgery. And surgery is quite common for a lot of women who get diagnosed. It's an option, it's not mandatory. Nothing's mandatory at the moment. But yeah, surgery is an option if things get really bad. But at that point, it was, I mean, I would have done anything. So
okay, so it was that bad. Wow. So what with the surgery, what are
awful.
they changing or taking out, or what's the surgery?
So when what happens with endometriosis, the reason why we feel pain and there's inflammation is because when the hormones actually leak outside of the womb, I'm just trying to explain it in basic terms, these adhesions, they're called adhesions, they form, but it's tissue that basically sticks your organs together. And it sticks organs together that aren't supposed to be together. So it can cause pain. Because things are, you know, they're stuck to organs that they shouldn't be. And then you just feel pain, you feel tightness, or well, I do anyway. But you can feel all sorts of things. And these adhesions can develop anywhere in your body. Luckily for me, mine are localized, you know, around my lower abdomen and my hips. But I know there are women who get them in their lungs, somewhere in their brains, some people in their feet. It's awful. And these adhesions get activated every time you have a surge of different hormones, usually around your period.
And so these things that can grow outside, even to your feet and everything else, is that based on endometriosis?
Yes, that's what the condition causes. It's just these endometrial tissue that should be usually within your womb. It just grows outside of your womb.
Yeah,
and the
that's
surgery
a lot.
is to cut those away or burn them away. So that helps, so that even if, you know, when your hormones, I guess your hormones spill out, there is nothing to react to. So that's what the surgery does.
Okay. I'm learning today. Obviously prior to this, we talked about doing this interview, and I kind of went on Google just to make sure, you know, I know a little bit more, but I found that actually my knowledge on endometriosis is not that great. So this is really, really good, and I hope more women can be free to open up and talk about these things, and also listen to your story and gain something from it, and maybe even get diagnosis for something they don't know they have.
Yeah, and you're not alone. A lot of even medical professionals don't know about it. And that was the most difficult thing going through. You know, I've had so many scans, so many different scans, so many appointments where I would be in pain. I would literally call for an ambulance because I couldn't carry myself to hospital, even though it was a few hundred yards away. And it's been frustrating, to say the least, to have countless medical professionals not having a clue. They didn't know because they were never trained on it. The knowledge on it is still really specific. I mean, now there are a couple of units across the UK, I think, who have doctors who they specify in this area, and they only do surgery, you know, on certain gynecological conditions, and one of them is endometriosis, so they know what they're looking at. And it's been a relief actually, because I've had interaction with one such specialist this year, and they just understand instantly, and it's a
Yeah.
completely different interaction
So
with
it's quite
them.
specific. Like you said
Yeah.
earlier, it takes about, I don't know if you said 8 to 10
Yeah.
visits to the GP before you get diagnosis. That just obviously shows the lack of knowledge that can be within medical professionals as well. So
Yeah.
what did the operation do for you?
So initially for removing in terms of removing the adhesions, it just meant that every time I had surges of hormones after, I had far less pain. I had no bloating whatsoever, and I wasn't nauseous for a long time. Usually when you have these operations, sometimes you can choose, you have a choice to also have some kind of hormone like birth control, just so that you can have a break and not have periods for a while. So that was really a relief. But I can say that as compared to before the operation, things have gotten a little bit worse for me, but I don't get anywhere near the same amount of pain as I used to.
Sorry, you said since the operation things have gotten worse.
Yes, they have gotten worse, because this is a condition that can't be cured. And even though some of I think the adhesions were cut away in the last operation, they can grow back again.
That was my next question. Can they regrow?
Yes, they can regrow and redevelop in some cases, and that's what's happening to me. So I've gotten a little bit worse, but it's nowhere near what I was, the way I was before.
Okay, so it's gotten better from the operation, but then gotten worse since then because of that makes sense. Well, yeah, so the fact that they grow back, I guess, like you say, there's no cure. Yeah, that must be difficult. Would you be able to have a second operation at some point in the future, or would they not?
I'm actually waiting for an operation right now. I'm on a waiting list for one. And the reason is because earlier this year, things just got so bad that it's probably been, ironically, even though I'm not feeling the same level of pain, my overall sickness when I'm having these episodes, it's a lot worse now. So I know I can't deal without the operation, but I also have to recouple that with some homeopathic remedies and some diet changes that I've tried in the past. But I wasn't able to stick to everything because it was so difficult, really, really difficult.
Yeah, gosh, I know you, and as my friend, I've heard and I've seen you go through these things when you would say, you know, I'm just in bed this week, I'm in a lot of pain. And I think I understood because, you know, I hear you, I understand you, I'm empathic, I get that. But I think it's only now from reading and finding out and hearing from you that I'm getting a bigger picture, you know, of what you've actually been going through. So yeah, it's a lot, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It has been a lot, and it's difficult to explain to people, even people who have a womb, because if you haven't been through that level of pain, or maybe an illness that gets you debilitated to the same level, it's hard to imagine that's going on, and then
like I
there's
said,
no
I've had
information.
periods where I've had to go like, oh, on the first day I'm like, so much pain, and then I just think it's short-lived, and then you're saying it's been going on for a long time. So just what about like with your family history, and I don't know if maybe your culture or your race plays a part in any of it, or family discussions you've ever had about endometriosis. What impact has that had on your life and the way things have panned out?
Yeah, I've initiated the conversations. It's particularly with obviously my female cousins and other relatives about this. I guess things came to a climax around the first operation that I had, because they were really worried. They didn't understand what was going on, and also nobody expected my operation to be as big. I was meant to go in for keyhole surgery. I ended up staying there for a few days, and I was lucky enough to be looked after by my mum, by my parents as well, for you know, a month or so. So that was pretty major, but I'm making sure that I'm initiating those conversations, because I can see in some of my cousins particularly symptoms, because it's not something that's discussed a lot or at all, or known in, I guess, African culture back home, but there are specific groups for endometriosis for Black women in the UK and the US. So
Okay.
whilst I don't have these conversations with family so much because they also don't know really what's going on, yeah, there's communities online that I can lean on, and it's been quite difficult having some conversations because I'm at the age where, you know, they're now expecting me or would have expected me to have a child. And my thinking around that is, you know, I've spent so much of my life in pain and discomfort. Quite frankly, if I had Kardashian money, I would be hiring a surrogate.
Yeah.
And that's, yeah, a difficult conversation to navigate with people. And even I initially hadn't even had time to think about whether or not I wanted to actually have children myself. But the more I see, you know, different complications with women and the pain and suffering that they go through, I also have to explain to myself and remind myself that I've been experiencing a level of pain that a lot of people haven't for a long time, and I need to give myself grace, and it's actually okay if I don't want to have children the traditional way. But
Yeah.
getting that through to family.
Yeah, Kardashian
Yeah.
money. When we talk about the traditional way, I mean, as I said earlier, you've just recently got married, and I was there at your beautiful, gorgeous wedding. But when you talk about traditional way, normally, and I don't even think it's just an African thing. I think it's it's a thing. It's a worldly thing. When people get married, it's like the next question is, you know, when are you having children, or you know, when's the baby? That's a natural next thing. Or sometimes if you've been in a relationship for a while, it's when are you having children? That kind of thing. So I guess it's nice that you know for yourself what you want, and you've reevaluated and reviewed what's important to you based on your condition, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, indeed. That's been really important. It's been tough, I've got to say, because there is somebody else in this equation. It's my body, but it isn't just me, it's somebody else's life as well. So yeah, we're still, you know, considering options with my husband, but that is something that I have realized. I have to say I'm reluctant to go through any more pain and discomfort, really.
Yeah. And like, you know, the good thing is that there are options.
Yeah.
What will be will be. We'll pray about it. And also you talked about online cultural groups. I just wanted to ask, what do you think is the difference with, or what are the benefits of having a cultural group that is for endometriosis, as opposed to just having a general group? What are the differences? What are the benefits?
Oh, I think it's particularly for Black women, there's already talk around the chemicals that we haven't grown up with naturally, as in our ancestors haven't been exposed to, affecting our reproductive organs. So that level of awareness, particularly with hair products and skin products, it's not an issue for other communities. They don't need to worry about it. So those discussions can actually be had there. And whether, you know, there's definitely a lack of research. But even in terms of the, I would say, homeopathic maybe remedies or options that we have, there's a lot more information from the Black community that I get from the Black community than anywhere else. So yeah, there's loads of things that we just discuss, and it stems from things that happen within the culture that other cultures outside the Black community wouldn't understand. And even simple things like, you know, speaking to family and explaining to them what's going on, that it's difficult in itself, because I don't think, well, certainly in my family and my immediate culture, we don't have a habit of discussing these things amongst women, or it's discussed to a certain level. We only talk about the nice things, and when things are happy and they're good when they happen. But when bad things happen, I don't think we're good at speaking.
No, we're really not, and we're changing. We're hoping to, but it's a slow progress. And just naturally, as Africans, we're taught to be tough. We're supposed to be the tough person that's not complaining about this and complaining about the little things, whereas it's not a little thing. It's real, you know. We are taught to just talk about the niceties and hide behind. I don't know if it's that we're taught that, but that's just what we've grown up with.
Yeah, no, it happens. I mean, even a simple thing as pregnancy, well, I don't know about you, but for us in our culture in Cameroon, it's quite common for people to hide their pregnancy, especially if
Oh
they're
yeah,
over here. I'm
yeah.
like, what is that all about? And even my, my operation and my condition is quite common for people to have operations, and they just pop up with a baby, or they pop up and they're okay. And I think, for younger women particularly, even if it's not for us, it might be too late for us, but for younger women who are watching us and in our community, that is not a good thing. Like, we
No.
need to learn how to be a bit more open and to be honest. They need information.
Yeah, absolutely. And if we're not giving that information from our knowledge and from the stuff that we've experienced and from the things that we know, people are learning from each other. Say, let's say teenagers might be telling each other things that are not really the truth or correct information, because this is what they think, and they're feeding off of things that they don't know based on lack of experience. So I think, yeah, it's very important. Has this had any impact on relationships that you've had at all?
Yeah, oh, definitely. I think in terms of from the partners that I've had romantically, probably only two people have noticed, because they were around me for so long. And I actually let my guard down and let them know what was happening. So previous partner and my current husband, I've been with him for more than 10 years. So he knows. He's actually probably seen the worst of it. He's my biggest caretaker. Yeah, I really have to applaud him. I don't think we would have gotten married if he couldn't handle all my
We
phases,
applaud him.
unfortunately. We do. Unfortunately for him, that's how, yeah, things have ended up. But he's been absolutely brilliant, so patient, and just, yeah, really, really caring, and gives me space. He really, really understands. So it's been wonderful. It's been tough on him to watch me go through that and not be able to do anything, or not be able to do much. It's been frustrating and excruciating from him as well. But no, we're a
Yeah.
good team now.
And what impact has that had on your mental health? In terms of not just, I mean, everything, of course. I think everything does lead to mental health. But even with you saying it's been tough to watch him go through that, what does that do for you, or to you as a partner, to know that it's your thing that your partner is having to endure? Or have you found acceptance in that somebody has to be able to handle me? And aside from that, what other mental health things have come up for you in that?
Yeah, it's been difficult because I'm not somebody who I like to be taken care of, but I don't often allow it to happen. So in general, when I've had these episodes, especially recently, I haven't been able to do anything, and being stuck in bed, I hate that feeling. I hate not being able to do anything at all. I hate being waited on, so it's been incredibly difficult. I felt sometimes as if I've just lost my identity, and I've been in free fall. It's been quite depressing, but I didn't realize the episodes of depression I was going through. I didn't realize that that's what was happening whilst I was going through it. I was just trying to come out and be myself again. And I do feel guilt sometimes as well, for my husband, for having to, look after me. I think that's probably normal if you've got a partner who is more often the carer. Because yeah, when I go down, I literally can't do anything in the household, and yeah, I can't keep up my end of the deal, as it were. So yeah, it doesn't feel great. For me, it doesn't feel great because I'm somebody that doesn't necessarily like to be waited on. And if I can't power through, it takes a lot before I can't power through it. Like I said before, early in the interview, I stood through client presentations in extreme pain. So I'm prepared to go through a lot before I give up completely. But that's
and I
also
mean,
not been a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it has its pros and cons. I think everything has their pros and cons, but I know that of you. I know that you're very you can be very tough. I've seen your soft side, I've seen your tough side, and I think that it's sometimes difficult. I think I'm like that. It's difficult to just allow someone to take care of you when you're so independent. a lot of the time. So I know you've been together for a long time, but you still have this independence about you, and you like to do things independently. I guess that's the only word I can use. You've also mentioned some depression. So did you fall into some type of depression going through that?
Oh yeah, several
How did that look like?
times. Several times. I think even when I felt like I wanted to get out of bed, just not wanting to get out of bed, not wanting to see people, kind of, yeah, becoming a recluse or a hermit. I do laugh about this with one of my friends. She always checks in on me at least every 2 weeks to make sure, have I left the house routinely, because that's when you know that something bad is going on if you don't see me outside. And when I say don't see me outside, I literally don't go outside unless it's to, you know, buy to the shops to grocery. So I've had to force myself as well after you know, my recent episodes, to actually go outside and have a goal in terms of networking with people, reconnecting with the community. I've had certain targets that every week I have to get out at least once or twice.
Okay, so that's helped you. That's helped you actually get out as well, rather than. And that's a good thing. Having goals is always a good thing, and it's nice that you found a way to structure. I just want to go back to what you said just slightly earlier. You said you feel the guilt, and also you know, it's having somebody take care of the things that you thought you could do yourself, or wanted to be able to do yourself. I think that I just want to remind you, and I know that you know this, but that you're worthy, and your husband has chosen to do these things for you because you're worth doing these things for, you know. Just remember that, because sometimes we think, oh my God, I'm a burden, but you're never a burden when somebody has made a choice to love you.
Thank you.
And I'm sure he gets a lot from you. What's that, sorry?
Yeah, so I need reminding. I need to remind myself of that.
Yeah, of course, you're worthy. And so, I mean, I've learned a lot today, so thank you. What would you say to anyone out there that needs to hear stuff about endometriosis? I know you've told us the things that you've been through, but what advice do you have, whether it's to young girls or other women? Yeah,
so don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask the internet, because it's actually been great, and I think it still continues to be, you know, the greatest source of information. There are organizations out there now who are on the internet. There are forums, you can speak to people, even if, you know, you don't feel as if you can speak to people around you. It's actually a great community. And also don't stop pressing and challenging your doctors and medical professionals. If you feel as if you're not well, you're probably right. Carry on putting pressure on them. Unfortunately, that stat of 8 to 10 visits before getting diagnosed, I don't think it's changing. I know people are working to reduce it, but yeah, carry on. But also having that community of people that you can speak to, it helps, because when I did that, there were women who actually told me what to say in appointments to jump the system.
So this circle of strength comes
very
from
important.
I was just going to say, this circle of strength does come from each other, doesn't it? We're stronger together, and talking to other people for me is so important. That's why I do this work. You know, I want people to hear things they may never have heard before, or may never have thought about hearing. So yeah, I think you said something really important as well about hospitals pushing for what you really want, because a lot of the times, not just with your condition, so many things I've had to fight doctors. I think sometimes we are just a number, and that's not to criticize the system, but sometimes we are just a number, and there's so many of us coming with similar symptoms. But I think if you push for what you believe in, your gut is almost always true.
Indeed, it definitely is. Definitely. And you know, you are worthy. You're worth it. Because sometimes I don't feel, I've had that feeling a lot, just giving up, being like, okay, I'll just sit here. But no, you are worthy. You do deserve whatever it is, whether it's a special policy from work or special treatments. You need to take care of yourself. Don't try and do what I did.
And don't worry about what other people think, because sometimes you think, oh, you know, my people will think I'm exaggerating, or you know, just go with what you need to do to get yourself better. Annie, it's been so insightful. Thank you so much. I have definitely learned a lot about endometriosis, and it's something that I will be championing as well for other women, because now I feel like I understand it more. So thank you so much.
Wonderful. I'm so glad. Thank you so much. It's been really, really cathartic, to talk about it.
Yeah, good. I'm glad you could get it out. So thank you so much. I'm going to say goodbye and stop the tapes. And
Okay.
you just wait there. Don't go anywhere.
Let's talk about it.